Hi, a film I was interested in seeing that I finally tracked down is Doctor Who Am I, a documentary co-directed, co-produced, and featuring Matthew Jacobs. It's the story of his relationship with Doctor Who fandom. Jacobs was the writer of the 1996 TV movie starring Paul McGann, which it was hoped might lead to a new series, but unfortunately didn't do well in the United States. Having for decades distanced himself from Doctor Who fandom, he finally ventures to conventions and finds a generally warm reception. And the film reflects on his experiences and as well as his past and his thoughts on fandom as a whole. I did not care for this film. I was interested in seeing what I hoped would be some kind of outsider's perspective on Doctor Who and its fandom. As it might not come to a surprise that I'm a huge fan and have been for many decades. But um, Jacobs is interested largely in painting fandom in a particular way. He only visits conventions in the United States, and all the people he speaks to, almost without exception, are in costume, are cosplaying, and good luck to them. If that is how they want to enjoy themselves, they look like they're having a great time. But there is a strange dismissiveness of fans who don't dress up. And of British fans in general, which I found strange and is not answered. Um, the film is oddly positioned in that it doesn't offer any kind of introduction to Doctor Who that a non fan audience might need. But a fan audience watching would see how biased it is and also how inaccurate, because there are basic facts about the series. Most obviously, the date on which the first episode was broadcast that Jacobs gets wrong. And it's an easy one to get right because it was the day after the Kennedy assassination. Jacob says it was the day of the shooting, which is obviously untrue. Um, so the film presents a very biased, very inaccurate view of fandom. I have to say it's a case where, rather like that moment in Parks and Recreation where Ron Swanson's in a hardware store and is approached by the store assistant, I know more than him. I know more about this subject than the person making the film. Jacobs does talk about his troubled past and his difficult childhood. His mother died by suicide when he was very young. His father, who in fact appeared on Doctor Who in the 1960s and brought his son to the set as a birthday treat, was suffering apparently from bipolar disorder, though Jacobs is very vague on the issue. And so he had a difficult childhood and speaks of fans as escaping into fantasy to deal with regular life, although for every fan that you see who uses this as an escape from their problems, I will find you 20 people who also have problems and who have no escape from them. So I would say that fandom like this is in fact healthier because it provides some kind of emotional release. Um, the film is generally quite vague and muddled in exactly what it wants to be. There are scenes towards the end of Jacobs packing up his home with the assistance of his two adult sons, but it's not explained why this is relevant or where he's going or what he's doing. Um, the result is a strangely half formed production. I don't know who it's aimed at. I don't know what the point of it is. It does seem to be something of a vanity project for Jacobs. Um, and the whole thing seems to be typified by him at one point sharing a panel with um, another person who he speaks to somewhat dismissively afterwards. And it's never explained who this person is. It is, in fact, Andrew Cartmel, who was script editor, effectively half of the creative half of the showrunning team of Doctor Who in the late 1980s, and who's had a huge impact on the history of the series. But he's treated as though he's just a passing fan rather than a major creative force and someone who is still a successful novelist, author, and graphic novel co-writer. Jacobs, however, has come to a dead stop in his career. So it's an odd film, one that doesn't have much structure, position, concept of what it is, other than to seemingly let Jacobs pontificate on something that he knows nothing about. Well, as the saying goes, I know more than you, Mr. Jacobs, and your film is bad.